Just having lunch, sir. Cop's daily routine with homeless boy hide a heartbreaking secret. Officer Mike O'Connell was a seasoned veteran of the city's police force. His face etched with the lines of countless sleepless nights and harrowing encounters. He carried himself with the weary confidence of a man who had seen the best and worst of humanity, his broad shoulders bearing the weight of responsibility, his eyes reflecting a deep understanding of the human condition. He was a good cop, one of the best, his reputation built on a foundation of fairness, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to justice. He patrolled the gritty streets of downtown with a watchful eye, his presence a reassuring beacon in the midst of the urban chaos. He knew these streets like the back of his hand, every alleyway, every doorway, every hidden corner where despair and desperation often lurked. He had seen it all. The crushing poverty that gnawed at the soul, the insidious grip of addiction that destroyed lives, the senseless violence that erupted without warning, leaving scars that ran deep. He was tough, hardened by years of confronting the darkness that festered in the shadows of his city. But he was also fair, his sense of justice tempered with compassion, his gruff exterior hiding a heart that ached for the vulnerable, the lost, the forgotten. He believed in protecting the innocent, in upholding the law, even when it meant facing danger, confronting the worst of humanity, putting his own life on the line. But beneath the tough exterior, the unwavering dedication to his duty, Mike carried a burden of guilt, a shadow that haunted his waking hours and crept into his dreams. Years ago, his younger brother, Danny, a bright, energetic boy with a mischievous grin, had fallen into the wrong crowd, lured by the false promises of easy money and acceptance. He had spiraled into a life of drugs and crime, his descent a slow, agonizing torture for Mike, who had watched helplessly as his brother slipped away. Mike had tried to help, to pull Danny back from the brink, to offer him a lifeline, but his efforts had been in vain. Danny, caught in the undertow of addiction and despair, had rejected his brother's outstretched hand, his pride and his fear blinding him to the love and support that surrounded him. He had ended up dead, a victim of the very streets Mike had sworn to protect, his life cut short, his potential unfulfilled. The loss had left a gaping hole in Mike's life, a constant reminder of his failure to save his brother, a burden of guilt that weighed heavily on his soul. He channeled his grief into his work, dedicating himself to helping those who were struggling, those who were lost and vulnerable, those who teetered on the edge of the abyss. He patrolled his beat with a watchful eye, always on the lookout for those in need, offering a helping hand, a kind word, a sense of hope in a world that often seemed devoid of it. One day, while on patrol, his footsteps echoing in the deserted alleyway, Mike encountered a young boy, no older than 10, huddled in a doorway, seeking shelter from the biting wind. The boy, whose name was Eli, was a picture of vulnerability, his clothes threadbare, his face pale and drawn, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and defiance. He was homeless, orphaned at a young age, left to fend for himself on the unforgiving streets, his childhood stolen, his innocence lost. Mike, seeing a reflection of his brother in Eli's vulnerable eyes, the same lost look, the same mixture of fear and defiance, felt a surge of compassion, a deep ache in his heart, a yearning to protect this child, to offer him the support he had failed to give his brother. He knelt down beside the boy, his voice gentle, his eyes filled with concern. He offered him a warm smile, a gesture of kindness that broke through Eli's defenses, his wary gaze softening. He bought the boy a hot meal, a steaming cup of coffee, a beacon of warmth in the cold winter air. He listened to his story, his voice barely a whisper, his words hesitant at first, then gradually opening up as he recounted his experiences, his struggles, his fears. Mike listened patiently, his heart aching for the boy's lost innocence, his determination growing to help this child, to offer him a glimmer of hope in a world that had offered him little but hardship and neglect. He promised to return the next day, to check on him, to offer him a sense of security in a world that had offered him little but fear and uncertainty. He gave Eli his name, his badge number, a symbol of trust, a promise of protection. True to his word, Mike returned the next day, his footsteps familiar now, his presence a beacon of hope in Eli's bleak existence. He brought Eli another hot meal, a steaming bowl of soup, a sandwich wrapped in wax paper, a symbol of warmth and nourishment in the cold winter air. He also brought a warm jacket, a thick woolen coat that would shield Eli from the biting wind, a tangible expression of his concern, his desire to protect this vulnerable child. They sat together in the doorway, the alleyway their makeshift dining room, their shared meal a symbol of connection, of human kindness in the midst of urban indifference. Their conversation was hesitant at first, Eli still wary, his trust hard-earned, his defenses built up over years of hardship and betrayal. But gradually, as Mike listened patiently, his eyes filled with genuine concern, his voice gentle and reassuring, Eli began to open up, his words flowing more freely, his story unfolding like a fragile flower blooming in the harsh sunlight. Mike learned about Eli's life on the streets, his daily struggle for survival, his constant fear of the unknown, his desperate search for food and shelter. He heard about the boy's encounters with other homeless people, the kindness of some, the cruelty of others, the constant threat of violence that lurked in the shadows. He learned about Eli's dreams, his aspirations for a better life, his desire to escape the streets, to find a place where he belonged, where he could feel safe, where he could be a child again. He heard about Eli's love for drawing, his passion for capturing the world around him in intricate sketches, his dream of becoming an artist, a dream that seemed impossibly distant given his circumstances, a flicker of hope in the darkness of his reality. Mike, touched by Eli's resilience, his unwavering spirit in the face of adversity, his determination to hold onto his dreams despite the harsh realities of his life, made a decision that would change both their lives forever. He would have lunch with Eli every day, offering him not just food and shelter, but also companionship, a sense of connection, a glimmer of hope in a world that had offered him little but hardship and despair. He would be the friend, the mentor, the protector that Eli needed, the one constant in his chaotic life, the one person he could rely on. Their daily lunches became a ritual, a beacon of stability in Eli's unpredictable existence. Mike would arrive at the alleyway every day, his presence a familiar comfort, his smile a ray of sunshine in Eli's bleak world. He would bring sandwiches, fruit, and sometimes a small treat, a chocolate bar, a bag of chips, a small indulgence that brought a spark of joy to Eli's eyes. They would share their meal, their conversation flowing easily now, their bond deepening with every shared laugh, every shared story, every moment of connection. Their conversations ranged from mundane topics like the weather and sports, the latest news headlines, to deeper discussions about life, dreams, and the challenges Eli faced on the streets. Mike shared stories of his own childhood, his relationship with his brother, the pain of his loss, the regrets that haunted him, the hopes he held on to for the future. He spoke of his work as a police officer, the dangers he faced, the satisfaction of helping those in need, the importance of justice and compassion. Eli, in turn, began to open up to Mike, sharing his fears and insecurities, his hopes and aspirations, the dreams he held on to despite the darkness that surrounded him. He showed Mike his drawings, sketches of the city, portraits of the people he encountered on the streets, his artistic talent evident in every stroke, his unique perspective capturing the essence of his world. Their bond deepened with each passing day, their connection transcending the usual boundaries between a police officer and a homeless boy, their relationship evolving into something deeper, something more meaningful. Mike saw in Eli a reflection of his brother, a chance to make amends for his past failures, to protect this vulnerable child from the dangers of the streets, to offer him the love and support he had been denied. Eli saw in Mike a father figure, a protector, a beacon of hope in a world that had offered him little but darkness and despair. One day, during their lunch break, as Mike and Eli sat together in their usual spot, their conversation flowing easily, their laughter echoing in the alleyway, Mike noticed a fresh bruise on Eli's arm, a dark mark that stood out against his pale skin. His heart sank, a wave of protectiveness washing over him. He gently touched the bruise, his voice gentle, his eyes filled with concern. "Eli, what happened to your arm?" Eli hesitated, his eyes darting away, his usual openness replaced by a guarded expression. He mumbled something about falling, a clumsy attempt to deflect Mike's concern, to hide the truth that lay beneath the bruise. But Mike, a seasoned detective, a man who could read people like an open book, knew that there was more to the story, that Eli was hiding something, something that caused him pain, something that filled his eyes with fear. He gently pressed Eli, his voice firm but kind, his concern evident in his every word. "Eli, you can tell me, what really happened?" Eli, sensing Mike's unwavering support, his genuine concern, finally relented, his voice barely a whisper, his words laced with shame and fear. He admitted that he had been harassed by a group of older boys, teenagers who roamed the streets like predators, their eyes searching for easy targets, their hearts filled with malice. They had cornered Eli in a dark alleyway, their laughter echoing menacingly in the confined space, their presence a terrifying threat to the vulnerable boy. They had stolen his meager belongings, the few possessions he had managed to accumulate, the small comforts that brought him a sense of security in his harsh reality. They had rifled through his pockets, taking his worn-out wallet, his collection of colorful bottle caps, his prized possession, a small sketchbook filled with his intricate drawings. They had mocked his drawings, their laughter cruel and heartless, their words tearing at Eli's soul, shattering his fragile sense of self-worth. And then they had hurt him, their fists connecting with his small frame, their blows leaving bruises that ached not just physically but also emotionally, their violence a reminder of his vulnerability, his powerlessness in the face of their cruelty. They had left him cowering in the alleyway, his body trembling, his tears mixing with the rain, his spirit broken. Mike felt a surge of anger, a primal rage that coursed through his veins, his protective instincts kicking in, his desire to shield this vulnerable child from harm overwhelming him. He couldn't bear the thought of this innocent boy being victimized, preyed upon by those who were stronger and more ruthless, their actions a stain on humanity, a reflection of the darkness that lurked in the shadows of his city. He vowed to protect Eli, to find those responsible and bring them to justice, to ensure that they wouldn't harm another innocent soul. He began to investigate, his detective instincts honed by years of experience, his determination fueled by his anger and his compassion. He questioned other homeless people in the area, their faces etched with hardship, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and resignation. He patrolled the streets with a more vigilant eye, his senses heightened, his presence a silent warning to those who preyed on the vulnerable. He also contacted social services, hoping to find a safe place for Eli, a shelter where he could be protected from the dangers of the streets, where he could receive the care and support he needed. But his efforts were met with frustration. The bureaucratic maze, a labyrinth of paperwork and waiting lists, the system overwhelmed, the resources stretched thin. He discovered that the social services system was overwhelmed, the shelters overcrowded and understaffed, their resources stretched thin, their ability to provide adequate care limited. Eli, as a minor, was a low priority, his case lost in the bureaucratic maze, his needs overshadowed by the sheer volume of cases, the endless stream of vulnerable individuals seeking help. Mike realized that he couldn't rely on the system to protect Eli, that the wheels of bureaucracy turned too slowly, that the resources were too scarce, that the system was failing those who needed it most. He had to take matters into his own hands, to become the protector this vulnerable child needed, to offer him the safety and security that the system couldn't provide. He made a decision that would challenge the boundaries of his professional role, a decision that would change his life forever. He decided to take Eli home with him, to offer him a temporary safe haven until he could find a more permanent solution, a place where Eli could feel safe, where he could heal, where he could begin to rebuild his life. He knew it was a risky move, a blurring of the lines between his professional and personal life, but his compassion for Eli, his desire to protect this vulnerable child, outweighed any concerns about the consequences. Mike's decision to take Eli home was met with mixed reactions, his unconventional choice creating ripples in his professional and personal life, His colleagues on the force were supportive, their understanding born from years of shared experiences, their empathy fueled by their own encounters with the harsh realities of the streets. They understood his compassion for the boy, his desire to protect him from the dangers that lurked in the shadows, the predators that preyed on the vulnerable. But his superiors were less enthusiastic, their concerns rooted in the potential liabilities, the blurring of professional boundaries, the risk of compromising his objectivity, his ability to perform his duties without emotional entanglement. They cautioned him about the potential consequences, the repercussions that could arise from his unconventional choice, the damage it could do to his career, his reputation. Mike, however, was undeterred. He knew he was doing the right thing, following his heart, his sense of justice, his desire to make amends for his past failures, to offer Eli the support and protection he had failed to give his brother. He brought Eli home to his small apartment, a modest dwelling that suddenly felt filled with life and purpose, the silence broken by the sound of Eli's hesitant footsteps, his quiet voice, his occasional laughter. He introduced Eli to his wife, Sarah, a kind and compassionate woman who shared Mike's concern for the boy, her heart aching for his vulnerability, her maternal instincts awakened by his presence. She welcomed Eli into their home, her smile warm and genuine, her eyes filled with a gentle understanding. She offered him warmth, comfort, and a sense of belonging, her presence a soothing balm to Eli's wounded spirit. They set up a makeshift bedroom for Eli, transforming their small spare room into a cozy haven, a place where he could finally feel safe, where he could sleep without fear, where he could dream of a better future. They shared their meals with him, their small dining table becoming a place of connection, of shared stories, of laughter and conversation. Sarah, a former teacher, her passion for education undimmed, began to help Eli with his schoolwork, nurturing his love for learning, his thirst for knowledge, his desire to catch up on the years of education he had missed. Mike, despite his long shifts and the emotional toll of his job, the constant exposure to the darkness of human nature, made time for Eli, his presence a source of stability and support in the boy's life. He played games with him, their laughter filling the small apartment, their competitive spirit bringing a playful energy to their relationship. He read to him, his voice soothing and reassuring, the stories transporting Eli to worlds of imagination and adventure. He shared stories of his life, his experiences on the force, the challenges he faced, the triumphs he celebrated, the lessons he had learned. He taught Eli about responsibility, about respect, about the importance of making good choices, of choosing the path of kindness and integrity. Eli thrived in this new environment, his wounded spirit healing, his confidence growing, his laughter becoming more frequent, his smile more genuine. He felt safe, loved, and valued, his fears and insecurities gradually receding, replaced by a sense of belonging, a sense of hope. He blossomed under Sarah's tutelage, his academic skills improving, his artistic talent flourishing, his drawings becoming more vibrant, more expressive, his unique perspective capturing the essence of his newfound happiness. But Mike's decision wasn't without consequences, the ripples of his unconventional choice reaching the upper echelons of the police department. His superiors, concerned about the potential for conflict of interest, the blurring of professional boundaries, the risk of emotional entanglement compromising his objectivity, reassigned him to a desk job, a move that felt like a punishment, a demotion. He was taken off patrol, away from the streets he loved, the people he felt a connection to, the work that gave him a sense of purpose. He was confined to a small, sterile office, his days filled with paperwork, reports, and administrative tasks. His connection to the pulse of the city severed, his sense of purpose diminished. He felt a sense of frustration, a longing to return to his beat, to continue his work, to protect those in need, to make a difference in the world. But he also recognized the importance of his new role, the opportunity to support Eli, to guide him on his path to a better life, to be the father figure he had never had. He knew that his presence in Eli's life was more important than any professional ambition, any desire for recognition or advancement. While Mike was navigating the challenges of his new role and his responsibilities towards Eli, adjusting to the confines of his desk job and the frustration of being removed from active duty, Sarah was undergoing her own transformation, her heart opening to the possibilities that Eli's presence had brought into their lives. She had always been a kind and compassionate woman, her empathy extending to those less fortunate, her desire to help others a driving force in her life. But her encounter with Eli, his vulnerability, his resilience, his desperate need for love and support, awakened a maternal instinct she had never fully experienced, a longing for a child to nurture and cherish. She had always wanted children, her dreams filled with images of a bustling family, a house filled with laughter and the patter of little feet. But years of trying had been unsuccessful, her hopes dashed, her dreams fading into a quiet resignation. Eli's arrival filled a void in her life, a longing for a child to love and nurture, a chance to experience the joys of motherhood, to share her love and wisdom, to guide a young soul on their journey through life. She poured her heart into caring for him, her maternal instincts taking over, her love for Eli growing with every passing day. She provided him with the emotional support and guidance he had been lacking, her gentle words soothing his wounded spirit, her warm embrace offering him a sense of security and belonging. She saw in Eli a reflection of her own younger self, a sensitive soul with a creative spirit, a yearning for knowledge, a passion for expression. She encouraged his artistic talents, buying him art supplies, transforming their small dining table into a makeshift art studio, filling their home with his vibrant drawings. She took him to museums, exposing him to the world of art, the masterpieces that inspired and challenged, the expressions of human creativity that spoke to his soul. She nurtured his passion for expression, his unique perspective on the world, his ability to capture the essence of life in his intricate sketches. She also became his advocate, her determination fueled by her love for Eli, her desire to protect him, to secure his future. She navigated the bureaucratic maze of the social services system, her patience wearing thin as she encountered endless paperwork, long waiting lists, and a system that seemed more concerned with regulations than with the well-being of the children it was supposed to protect. She fought for his rights, her voice firm and resolute as she demanded attention, her persistence unwavering as she sought a more permanent solution for his situation. She contacted foster care agencies, her heart aching as she described Eli's circumstances, his history of trauma, his desperate need for a loving home. She explored adoption options, her hopes rising and falling with each phone call, each meeting, each encounter with potential families. She was determined to find a loving and stable home for Eli, a place where he truly belonged, where he could thrive, where he could finally experience the love and security he deserved. Her efforts were met with challenges, the road to finding a permanent home for Eli paved with obstacles and setbacks. Eli, as an older child with a history of trauma, his past experiences casting a shadow over his future, was not an easy placement. Many families were hesitant to take him in, their fear of the unknown, their concerns about his emotional baggage, their apprehension about his potential for behavioral issues, outweighing their compassion, their desire to open their hearts and homes to a child in need. But Sarah refused to give up, her determination fueled by her love for Eli, her belief in his potential for growth and happiness. She saw the good in him, the spark of resilience, the yearning for connection, the artistic soul that shone through his vulnerability. She believed in him, in his ability to heal, to thrive, to find his place in the world. She was determined to find him a family, a place where he truly belonged, where he could be loved unconditionally, where he could finally be a child. The bond between Mike and Eli deepened with each passing day, their connection growing stronger, their relationship evolving into a father-son dynamic that filled the void in both their lives. They shared meals, their conversations filled with laughter and shared stories, their bonds strengthened by the simple act of breaking bread together. They played games, their competitive spirit bringing a playful energy to their relationship, their laughter echoing through the small apartment, filling the space with warmth and joy. They watched movies, their shared experiences transporting them to worlds of imagination and adventure, their discussions afterwards deepening their understanding of each other, their perspectives on life. Mike taught Eli practical skills, the skills he had learned from his own father, the skills that would help Eli navigate the world with confidence and independence. He taught him how to ride a bike, the wobbly first attempts gradually giving way to confident strides, the wind in his hair, the freedom of movement a symbol of his newfound stability. He taught him how to throw a baseball, the satisfying thud of the ball in the glove, the shared camaraderie of the sport, a connection to a world beyond the streets. He taught him how to fix a leaky faucet, the satisfaction of a job well done, the sense of accomplishment that came from mastering a new skill. He also shared stories of his police work, the dangers he faced, the adrenaline rush of pursuing criminals, the satisfaction of helping those in need, the importance of justice and compassion in a world that often seemed devoid of both. He spoke of the challenges he faced, the moral dilemmas, the burden of responsibility, the weight of his decisions. He shared his experiences with Eli, not to glorify violence or instill fear, but to teach him about the complexities of the world, the importance of making good choices, of choosing the path of integrity and compassion. Eli, in turn, shared his dreams and fears, his hopes and anxieties, the vulnerabilities he had kept hidden for so long, the scars of his past experiences. He confided in Mike about his experiences on the streets, the loneliness, the fear, the constant struggle for survival, the desperation that gnawed at his soul. He spoke of the kindness of strangers, the fleeting moments of connection that had kept him going, the hope that had flickered in the darkness. He showed Mike his drawings, his artistic talent blossoming under Sarah's encouragement, his sketches capturing the essence of his world, his unique perspective on life. He drew portraits of Mike and Sarah, his lines capturing their kindness, their strength, the love that radiated from their eyes. He drew scenes from the streets, the faces of the homeless, the despair and resilience that coexisted in their eyes. He drew his dreams, his visions of a better future, a world filled with color and hope. Their relationship became a source of strength for both of them, a lifeline in a world that often felt cold and unforgiving. Mike found solace in Eli's youthful optimism, his unwavering spirit in the face of adversity, his ability to find joy in the simple things, his laughter a balm to Mike's weary soul. He saw in Eli a reflection of his brother, the innocence he had lost, the potential that had been extinguished, and he vowed to protect Eli, to guide him, to help him realize his dreams. Eli found security in Mike's strength, his unwavering support, his fatherly presence that filled the void in his life. He trusted Mike, confided in him, looked up to him as a role model, a protector, a guide. He felt safe in Mike's presence, his fears and anxieties easing, his hopes and dreams taking flight. Sarah also developed a close bond with Eli, their relationship evolving into a mother-son dynamic that filled the void in her life, the longing for a child to love and nurture. She nurtured his emotional well-being, offering him a safe space to express his feelings, to heal from the trauma of his past, to rediscover his childhood, his innocence. They became a family, bound not by blood but by love, compassion, and a shared commitment to each other's well-being. They found joy in the simple things, in shared meals, in laughter-filled evenings, in the comfort of their newfound connection. They created a home, a sanctuary of love and support, a place where Eli could finally feel safe, where he could heal, where he could grow. One evening, as Mike was preparing dinner, the aroma of spaghetti sauce simmering on the stove filling the small apartment with a comforting warmth, a call came over the police radio, its urgency shattering the peaceful atmosphere. A hostage situation was unfolding at a nearby convenience store. A desperate man, armed and agitated, holding a young woman captive, his motives unclear, his demands unknown. Mike, his instincts kicking in, his years of training and experience taking over, felt a surge of adrenaline, his body tensing, his mind racing. His sense of duty, his responsibility to protect the innocent, overridden his concerns about his new assignment, his forced removal from active duty. He couldn't ignore the call for help, the potential for innocent lives to be lost, the urgency of the situation demanding his attention. He excused himself from the dinner table, his voice apologetic, his eyes filled with a grim determination. He rushed to the scene, his footsteps echoing in the quiet streets, his mind replaying countless hostage situations, the training scenarios, the real-life encounters that had tested his skills, his courage, his humanity. He arrived at the scene, the tension palpable, the air thick with fear and anticipation. The convenience store, its brightly lit interior a stark contrast to the darkness that surrounded it, was cordoned off, the yellow tape a barrier between the chaos within and the order that the police were trying to maintain. The store was surrounded by police officers, their faces grim, their weapons drawn, their movements cautious and deliberate. The negotiator's voice echoed through the loudspeaker, his words calm and measured, pleading with the hostage-taker to surrender, to release the young woman unharmed, to end the standoff peacefully. Mike, assessing the situation, his years of experience allowing him to read the scene, to anticipate the potential dangers, recognize the urgency of the situation, the potential for the situation to escalate, to spiral out of control. The hostage-taker, his silhouette visible through the store windows, his movements agitated, his weapon clearly visible in his hand, was clearly agitated, his desperation palpable. The young woman, her face pale with fear, her eyes wide with terror, was huddled in a corner, her movements restricted, her life hanging in the balance. Mike, his instincts honed by years of experience, his training kicking in, decided to act. He couldn't stand by and watch as the situation spiraled out of control, the potential for tragedy looming large. He volunteered to enter the store, to try to reason with the hostage-taker, to defuse the situation before it turned deadly, to use his skills as a negotiator, his understanding of human nature, to bring the standoff to a peaceful resolution. He entered the store cautiously, his weapon drawn, his senses heightened, his every movement deliberate, his mind focused on the task at hand. He scanned the interior, taking in the details, the layout of the store, the position of the hostage-taker, the terrified expression on the young woman's face. He saw the hostage-taker, his face contorted with rage, his eyes filled with desperation, his gun pointed at the young woman, his finger trembling on the trigger. Mike approached slowly, his voice calm and steady, his words carefully chosen, his tone reassuring. He tried to engage the man in conversation, to establish a rapport, to calm him down, to appeal to his humanity, to find a common ground, a way to de-escalate the situation. He listened patiently as the hostage-taker vented his frustrations, his grievances, his anger at the world, his desperation fueling his actions. But the hostage-taker was irrational, his demands unreasonable, his logic clouded by his emotions, his finger tightening on the trigger, the threat of violence hanging heavy in the air. Mike, sensing the man's instability, his unpredictable nature, his desperation growing with every passing moment, knew that time was running out, that the situation could escalate at any moment, that the young woman's life was in imminent danger. In a split second, the situation spiraled out of control. The hostage-taker, his eyes filled with a wild desperation, his face contorted with rage, lunged towards the woman, his gun raised, his intention clear. Mike, reacting instinctively, his years of training kicking in, his body moving before his mind could fully process the situation, fired his weapon, the shot echoing through the store, the sound deafening in the tense silence. The hostage-taker stumbled backward, his body jerking from the impact of the bullet, his gun clattering to the floor, his grip loosening, his threat neutralized. The young woman, released from his grasp, her eyes wide with terror, her body trembling with fear, scrambled away from the fallen man, her movements frantic, her escape fueled by adrenaline and relief. She ran towards the safety of the police officers waiting outside, their arms outstretched, their voices reassuring, their presence a beacon of safety in the chaos. Mike, his heart pounding in his chest, his adrenaline surging through his veins, his senses heightened, his mind still processing the rapid chain of events, approached the fallen man cautiously, his weapon still drawn, his eyes scanning for any further threats. He knelt beside the hostage-taker, his fingers checking for a pulse, his touch gentle, his expression grim. He found none. The hostage-taker was dead, his life extinguished in a split second, the consequences of his actions irreversible. The aftermath of the shooting was a whirlwind of activity, the scene descending into controlled chaos as the police secured the area. Their movements swift and efficient, their voices echoing in the night. The store was cordoned off, the yellow tape a stark reminder of the violence that had occurred, the sanctity of the space violated. The witnesses, their faces pale with shock, their voices trembling with fear, were interviewed, their accounts piecing together the events that had led to the tragic outcome. Mike, his actions under scrutiny, his decision to use deadly force weighing heavily on his conscience, was placed on administrative leave, his future uncertain, his career hanging in the balance. He surrendered his weapon, his badge, the symbols of his authority, his identity as a police officer temporarily suspended as the investigation unfolded. He struggled with the weight of his decision, the life he had taken, the consequences of his actions echoing in his mind, the image of the fallen man, his eyes staring blankly at the ceiling, seared into his memory. He had acted instinctively, to protect the innocent, to prevent a tragedy, but the outcome was irreversible, the weight of his decision a heavy burden to bear. He found solace in Sarah and Eli's support, their unwavering love and understanding a beacon in the darkness that threatened to consume him. They stood by him, their presence a constant comfort, their words a soothing balm to his troubled soul. They knew he had acted with courage, with compassion, with the best intentions, his decision driven by his desire to protect, to serve, to uphold the law. Sarah, her maternal instincts extending to her husband, held him close, her embrace offering him a sense of security, her love a reminder of the goodness in the world. She reassured him that he had done the right thing, that his actions had saved a life, that he was a hero, not a killer. Eli, his eyes filled with concern and admiration, looked at Mike with a newfound respect, his understanding of the complexities of Mike's work deepening, his appreciation for his courage growing. He knew that Mike had acted to protect, to prevent a tragedy, and he was grateful for his presence in his life, for the safety and security he provided. The investigation, a thorough and meticulous process, eventually cleared Mike of any wrongdoing, his actions deemed justified given the circumstances, his split-second decision validated by the evidence, the witness testimonies, the reconstruction of the events. He was reinstated to his position, his reputation intact, his colleagues welcoming him back with open arms, their respect and admiration evident in their eyes. But the experience had changed him, the weight of the shooting, the life he had taken, the fragility of human existence, leaving an indelible mark on his soul. He returned to his work with a renewed sense of purpose, a deeper understanding of the consequences of his actions, a heightened awareness of the responsibility that came with his badge, his authority, his power to protect and to take a life. He continued to support Eli, his commitment to the boy unwavering, his paternal instincts strengthened by the shared experience, the bond between them deepened by the understanding of the darkness that lurked in the world, the fragility of life. He guided Eli through the challenges of adolescence, the temptations of the streets, the complexities of finding his place in the world, his presence a steady anchor in Eli's life. He became Eli's mentor, his confidant, his protector, his unwavering support in a world that often felt chaotic and unpredictable. He shared his wisdom, his experiences, his lessons learned, guiding Eli on his path to adulthood, offering him the guidance and support he had lacked in his own youth. The hostage situation, the life or death decision, the weight of taking a life, even in the line of duty, became a turning point in Mike's life, a catalyst for change that rippled through his career and his personal life. It was a crucible that forged a new understanding of his role as a police officer, his purpose in the world, his responsibility to his community. He realized that his work wasn't just about enforcing the law, about arresting criminals and maintaining order. It was about protecting the vulnerable, offering hope to those in need, making a difference in the lives of those he encountered, using his position to create a positive impact on his community. This realization ignited a fire in him, a passion to do more, to be more than just a badge and a uniform. He became more involved in community outreach programs, his dedication to his work extending beyond the confines of his patrol car, his uniform a symbol of not just authority but also compassion and support. He sought out opportunities to connect with the community, to build bridges of trust and understanding, to be a force for positive change. He worked with at-risk youth, his understanding of their struggles, their vulnerabilities, deepened by his experience with Eli, his empathy allowing him to connect with them on a deeper level, to offer them a lifeline, a path away from the streets, a chance to build a better future. He organized after-school programs, sports leagues, and mentorship initiatives, creating safe spaces for young people to learn, grow, and connect with positive role models. He shared his own story, his struggles, his triumphs, his regrets, offering them a glimpse of the consequences of their choices, the possibilities that lay ahead if they chose the path of integrity and responsibility. He mentored troubled teens, his guidance firm but kind, his words carrying the weight of experience, his presence a source of stability and support. He listened patiently to their stories, their frustrations, their fears, offering them a non-judgmental ear, a safe space to express themselves. He shared his own experiences, his mistakes, his regrets, his triumphs, offering them a glimpse of the consequences of their choices, the possibilities that lay ahead if they chose the path of integrity and responsibility. He offered them a chance to turn their lives around, to break free from the cycle of violence and despair, to find their place in the world, to realize their potential. He also became an advocate for police reform, his voice joining the chorus of those demanding change, his experience lending weight to his words. He pushed for better training, recognizing the need for de-escalation tactics, for conflict resolution skills, for a deeper understanding of human behavior, of the root causes of crime and violence. He advocated for more accountability, for transparency in police procedures, for a system that held officers accountable for their actions, that protected the rights of all citizens, regardless of their background or circumstances. He spoke at community meetings, his voice resonating with passion and conviction, his words challenging the status quo, his vision of a better police force inspiring hope and change. He worked with community leaders, politicians, and fellow officers, building coalitions, advocating for reforms that would improve police-community relations, promote transparency and accountability, and create a safer, more just society for everyone. He believed that the police force could be a force for good, a source of support and protection for the community, a bridge between law enforcement and the people they served. He envisioned a police force that was respected and trusted, a force that worked with the community to address the root causes of crime, to prevent violence, to create a safer, more just society. He found a renewed sense of purpose in his work, his dedication fueled by his desire to make a difference, to be a part of the solution, to use his position to create positive change. He embraced his responsibility to serve and protect, to uphold the law with fairness and compassion, to be a beacon of hope in a world that often seemed dark and unforgiving. He found satisfaction in knowing that he was making a difference, that his actions were contributing to a better future, that his legacy would be one of compassion, justice, and positive change. He continued to support Eli, his commitment to the boy unwavering, his paternal instincts strengthened by the shared experience, the bond between them deepened by the understanding of the darkness that lurked in the world, the fragility of life. He guided Eli through the challenges of adolescence, the temptations of the streets, the complexities of finding his place in the world, his presence a steady anchor in Eli's life, a source of guidance and support. He encouraged Eli's artistic talents, recognizing the power of art to heal, to inspire, to transform. He provided him with opportunities to showcase his work, to connect with other artists, to explore his creativity, to find his voice through his art. He saw in Eli's art a reflection of his own journey, a journey of transformation, of finding hope and beauty in the midst of darkness and despair. He nurtured Eli's dreams, his aspirations for a better future, his desire to make a difference in the world. He encouraged him to pursue his education, to explore his passions, to find his purpose, to use his talents to create a positive impact on the world. He saw in Eli the potential for greatness, the spark of resilience, the unwavering spirit that had drawn him to the boy in the first place. He was determined to help Eli realize his potential, to guide him on his path to adulthood, to be the father figure he had never had, to offer him the love and support he needed to thrive. He knew that Eli's journey would be filled with challenges, with obstacles and setbacks, but he also knew that Eli had the strength, the resilience, the determination to overcome them, to emerge stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Mike, the hardened cop, the man who had seen the worst of humanity, who had faced his own demons, his past regrets, his fear of failure, had undergone a profound transformation, a journey of self-discovery that had led him to a deeper understanding of himself, his values, his purpose in the world. He had learned the true meaning of compassion, the importance of empathy, the power of human connection, the strength that came from vulnerability, from opening his heart to the suffering of others, from offering a helping hand, a kind word, a sense of hope. He had faced his own demons, the guilt that had haunted him for years, the shadow of his brother's death that had clouded his life. He had confronted his fear of failure, his inability to save Danny, his fear of repeating the same mistakes, of failing Eli, of letting another vulnerable soul slip through his fingers. He had emerged stronger, more compassionate, more determined to use his experiences, his pain, his regrets, to make a difference in the world, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves, to offer hope to those who had lost their way. He had discovered that vulnerability wasn't a weakness, but a strength that allowed him to connect with others on a deeper level, to offer support and understanding, to build bridges of trust and compassion. He had learned to let his guard down, to share his own struggles, his own vulnerabilities, to connect with others on a human level, to see the world through their eyes, to understand their pain, their fears, their hopes. He had learned the importance of forgiveness, both for himself and for others. He had forgiven himself for his perceived failures, his inability to save his brother, recognizing that he had done everything he could, that Danny's choices were ultimately his own. He had forgiven those who had harmed Eli, the teenage bullies who had preyed on his vulnerability, recognizing their own struggles, their own pain, the circumstances that had led them to inflict pain on others. He had learned to see the humanity in everyone, even those who had committed terrible acts, recognizing that forgiveness was not condoning their actions, but freeing himself from the burden of anger and resentment. He had also learned the true meaning of family, a meaning that transcended blood ties, that extended beyond the traditional definitions of kinship. He had found a family in Sarah and Eli, a connection that filled the void in his life, a source of strength and unconditional love. He had learned that family was about love, support, and a shared commitment to each other's well-being, about creating a safe haven, a place of belonging, where everyone felt valued, loved, and supported. He reflected on his journey, the challenges he had faced, the lessons he had learned, the transformation he had undergone. He realized that his greatest achievement wasn't his career, his accolades, his reputation as a good cop, but the positive impact he had had on Eli's life, the opportunity he had given him to heal, to grow, to find hope, to realize his potential. He had found a sense of fulfillment in his role as a father figure, a mentor, a protector, a fulfillment that transcended any professional accomplishment, any personal ambition. He had learned that true strength lay not in toughness, not in the ability to inflict pain or dominate others, but in compassion, in empathy, in the courage to connect with others, to offer support, to make a difference in the world. He had learned that true success wasn't measured in arrests or convictions, but in the lives he had touched, the people he had helped, the positive impact he had had on his community. Mike O'Connell, the cop who had lunch with a homeless boy every day, the man who had faced the darkness of the streets and the shadows of his own past, had learned that true strength lay not in toughness but in compassion, not in enforcing the law but in protecting the vulnerable, in offering hope to those who had lost their way. He had discovered the power of human connection, the transformative power of love and support, the strength that came from vulnerability, from opening his heart to the suffering of others. He had faced his own demons, his past regrets, his fear of failure, and had emerged stronger, more compassionate, more dedicated to his work, his community, his family. He had learned the importance of forgiveness, the power of empathy, the true meaning of family. He had discovered that vulnerability wasn't a weakness, but a strength that allowed him to connect with others on a deeper level, to offer support and understanding, to make a difference in the lives of those he encountered. The terrible incident that had taken a life, the hostage situation that had forced him to use deadly force, had also given him a new perspective, a deeper understanding of his role as a police officer, protector of the innocent. He had embraced his responsibility to serve and protect, to uphold the law with fairness and compassion, to be a beacon of hope in a world that often seemed dark and unforgiving. He had learned that his actions had consequences, that the power he wielded could both protect and destroy, and he had vowed to use his authority wisely, with compassion and restraint. His story is a testament to the enduring human spirit, the power of compassion, the possibility of finding redemption in the face of adversity. It is a reminder that true strength lies in vulnerability, in empathy, in the courage to connect with others and make a positive impact on the world around us. It is a story of hope, of transformation, of the power of human connection to heal and inspire, to guide us through the darkness and lead us towards the light.